We got to do it. We got to call out the lies on the corporate press.
Yes.
Okay. First of all, let me say, who's his gaggle of scumbags? He's not talking about his administration because none of these people are doing press right now. He's talking about the supporters, the prominent people in media, people like us, who have rightly criticized that the LA Fire Department is understaffed. They've been complaining for years about having too many white people. Adam Carolla pointed out that as a white man, he was held back for 7 years, and these policies have made it more difficult to fight these fires. Now, there is other news. A new fire erupted called the Auto Fire. The winds are picking up. It's going to get bad. So when I see this video and they're all laughing and cheering and clapping at lies, this has been the problem the whole time with the corporate press, the mainstream narrative. How do we solve the problem of these massive wildfires if the people who live in these areas don't actually know what we're saying, what the problem is?
I don't know that there is a solution on the horizon for these wildfires because the people in positions of authority are just passing the buck. People like Jimmy Kimmel are blaming, their political opponents or people that they dislike their politics for being the problem. So I don't see a solution. I don't see how anything gets fixed. The government of California has been a single party government for at least 3 decades, probably longer. I don't know when the last time they had a genuine conservative or a person of a different political opinion, and that just leads to all kinds of terrible results for the population, regardless of which side it is, right? So if hypothetically, if it was all Republicans in one state all the time for 3 decades, you would get the same kind of falling in line and everyone just going through the same motions all the time, because that kind of ideological uniformity does nothing but breed corruption. We're getting it out of Washington right now. 4% or 5% of DC voted for Donald Trump as opposed to Kamala Harris. It's a terrible thing when you have uniformity of political opinion because you have people that are terrified to step out of line and say, no, this is a bad policy.
Yeah, I'd play devil's advocate just a little bit on this with the one issue here, because for me, it's like about the timing a little bit, right? The insensitivity of what happened, right? So there has to be a moratorium to some degree of like horrible tragedy, horrible fire. And I fear sometimes that we all do this. We jump on narratives right away. It's like, let's just have empathy for people that are, we don't want to be rooting for this so that we can have an I told you so moment or anything along those lines. And obviously, then you look at some of the issues like, why did this happen, right? Then you start to hold the people accountable. Maybe we're at that time where we start to look at that and the different reasons, whether, there's evidence that specifically the DEI was a culprit here. I don't know that you have that. You certainly have negligence, it appears. I'm not a fire guy, so maybe, an expert can say so. I know that many firemen have spoke out previously saying, like, all we need is one win and we're screwed. I'm like, if we knew that, we knew this 6 years ago, we know this now, like, why wasn't everything being done? Like, who pays more taxes than people in California? What are you paying for?
I completely agree. I think the issue here is, I would agree incompetence plays a much bigger role than diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yes.
They didn't fill the reservoirs. They didn't build new reservoirs, and understaffing may have an issue. There may be DEI involved in understaffing to a degree, but the bigger picture is general mismanagement.
Yep.
In this regard, though, Jimmy Kimmel is going on like a major late night show, one of the most prominent in the country, and misrepresenting the criticism that we have, which is largely mismanagement, and then trying to make it look like not specifically me, but the people in this space and Donald Trump are angry that there's too many people who aren't white as firefighters. So largely, completely agree. I'd like to focus on how can we get relief? And so shout out to Mike Cernovich and Chef Andrew Gruel, who have been raising money, and Chef Gruel's been providing space and resources for people. And I'm not going to rag on the guy for crying over watching his home burn. Not at all. But I want to correct the record and say this is not our criticism. It is not that we're saying people are not white. That should be called out.
Yeah,
Did Kimmel lose his house?
No.
Okay.
I'm saying, like, this is his home. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure his favorite bagel shop doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And that's fair to be upset about. These are if I know people who live in the Palisades, they don't live there anymore.
Yeah.
I've been to parties up there. Those parties will never happen again. That scares me. I have friends who live a few miles away from where these fires are, and I'm texting them and making sure they're alive. So I gotta say the dude does cry a lot. You know what I mean? Like, as an aside.
Yep.
He wants to make it just a typical Democrat wants to make it racial. No, our criticisms of them and their situations of mismanagement and getting everything wrong has nothing to do with who firefighters, what kind of race or firefighters you're hiring.
Well, it's
0%.
It's an inversion of the criticism. Our criticism is that they prioritized race when we shouldn't.
Yeah.
So Jimmy's attacking us, saying we prioritize race.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, I do think, though, like from what I saw, just perusing social media, the issue was mainly brought up, like when this was happening. I think a lot of maybe bad actors, if you will, were looking to score political points here. And they're like, how can we attack them in every way? How can we get Gavin? How can we get, the DEI and all this sort of stuff? There was, like, again, because I don't think there's direct evidence that, the fire chiefs there, the fact that they were women or people of color, like that led to it. I think, like you said, it's mismanagement as a whole. Like I'd be concerned if I lived there thinking like, we know the number one threat to this area is wildfires. So why is not like literally everything being done and so many resources being spent on that rather than potentially spending it on DEI programs and other things like that?
And it's years. This is not new. This is California. And feels like every couple of years when they have a big forest fire or they have a big fire, it's always blaming the same thing, climate change or any other kind of BS. Well, they don't manage their fires or manage their forest. They just let it go. You
can finish your thought.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that they just let it be how it is and let it build up and let the brush build up and let it turn into a tinderbox.
So I'll give you this. I think from a hard fact perspective, to say we have definitive evidence of DEI causing problems could be argued. But have you seen this video?
Oh, yes.
Jesus.
I've seen this video.
This is the video of the DEI chief. This is the DEI chief saying outright,
is she strong enough to do this? Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire. Which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
That's absurd.
That's the DEI
I can't believe
chief.
they released that.
Yeah, right?
But so let me just, that's the diversity chief for LAFD saying, you got yourself in the wrong place if I got to carry you out of a fire, instead of saying, we will do everything in our power to save your life.
I mean, obviously, when it comes to DEI, I'm like about as anti as you can get. I think the whole concept is really, really stupid and backwards. If you read, I don't know if you're familiar with Coleman Hughes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Wrote
absolutely.
The End of Race Politics, which I thought was a great book, which sort of, discussed that issue, at in great depth. So like I'm as anti-DEI as you can be. But again, like you said, there's no clear evidence that that's the reason for the fires in this case.
Right.
Yeah,
I think I like they should have prepared better for the fires. There does seem to be arson at play. There's more. Another video of a person getting arrested
just today.
But the fire likely started from New Year's Eve revelers. That's the leading theory right now. The embers burned for several days and then kicked back up. And there's been general mismanagement. So it's largely, I do think there's a political issue here. We don't need, it's not that it's a diversity issue. That plays a tiny role, I'd imagine. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.